All right. What's going on, YouTube world? Thank you so much for jumping on this live. My name is Brock. This is John. Let's put it the wrong way. This is Jonathan Boyd. How you
Oh,
doing,
it's
Jonathan?
backwards. I'm good. There's
Yeah.
Brock over there. Yeah, we're good over here.
All right, cool. Well, welcome guys to Breakthrough Guitars Q&A Live. We are streaming on multiple platforms today. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. It's the first time on Twitch, so hi Twitch world if you guys see this.
What's up, Twitch?
My first time on Twitch. I'm excited. So very cool. Thank you guys so much for showing up. This is it's gonna be a fun one. So if you don't know what we do here, we get a bunch of guitar questions that come in, and we spend at least an hour answering some of these questions for you guys. They range from beginner questions to intermediate to advanced questions to gear questions to how to play better, like all the whole gamut of guitar related stuff. So if you ever do have any questions, put them in the chat below. If you have them on this when you're here live, definitely put them in the chat box. We'll try to get to them. But we do have 10 questions picked out for this show. Are you ready for them, Jonathan? You excited?
I'm ready, and I also just want to add one thing real quick for those of you who are joining us for the first time. We really answer questions, and we give you the answers and the feedback and the insights that you're looking for that you're just not going to find on YouTube, that you're not going to find in books or from you know most local teachers, etc. We give you the real answers that you really need to in order to progress.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me make sure this is all set up. Oh, perfect. It looks beautiful. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to just jump in and ask you the first question because I know you're
Let's
ready
go
for
for
it.
it.
All right. So the question, it's a beginner question. What brand of guitars is best for beginner? I know you got some really nice guitars, some custom made ones. What do you think is best for a beginner?
So, okay, what brand of guitars are best for a beginner? I think just like all of my answers, they're probably going to be not what you expect. Um, Maybe you're expecting me to say like, oh, Fender or Ovation or actually name some brands. And I actually just want to give you a distinction or just an insight to think about. As a beginner, it really it doesn't matter what brand of guitar you play. You just want to start learning how to move your fingers on the fretboard to make notes, how to strum or pick strings, and how to actually make sounds. That's all we're looking for at the beginning, right? Now, that said, some guitars are harder to play than other guitars. If you're trying to play a harder guitar in the beginning, it's going to be harder for you to learn. You're going to get more frustrated, and chances are higher that you're going to put it down and want to quit or think that you can't play guitar, which is not true. It's just that the guitar probably is difficult to play. Now, other guitars are easier to play. So let me make one big distinction, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper to this question: acoustic versus electric. It is true that most acoustic guitars have thicker strings than electric guitars. Therefore, it's easier to press down the strings on an electric guitar. The neck is usually smaller as well. So getting started is probably going to be easier on an electric guitar, in my opinion, versus an acoustic guitar. If you like acoustic guitar, you want to play an acoustic guitar, no problem. You can do that. I'm just making a distinction between the two different types of guitars that one may be a little harder at first, an acoustic may be a little harder at first than an electric guitar. Now, as far as the brand goes, um, as I mentioned before, some guitars are harder to play than others, and I don't, as a beginning guitar player, we don't want to have to dive down the rabbit hole to think about like specs and neck relief and taking your guitar to a luthier and all kinds of different things that can really be confusing and overwhelming when you really just want to pick it up and play. So here's what my advice would be. I wouldn't First of all, it doesn't matter about the brand. Why? Because in the beginning, all we're trying to do is put your fingers on the strings and start to move around and start to make some music with it. That's it, right? There is one thing that I would say that is if you have a choice of whether to get your first guitar or not, I would choose something that inspires you to pick it up. Why? Because whenever you see it, and you should leave your guitar out on a stand so you can see it, or somewhere that's out that you'll go pick it up more. When you see it, you'll like it. It's like, oh, it's attractive to you, so you want to go over there and pick up the guitar. Whereas if you have a guitar that maybe somebody gave you, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying if you have a guitar that maybe somebody gave you, or it's just an old guitar, or it doesn't really feel very good, or you don't really like how it looks, you're probably not going to pick it up that much, right? So the goal is to play more because you're going to get better faster when you play more and do the right things versus not picking it up. Now, when it comes to the actual brand, the reason I mentioned that some guitars are harder to play than others, um, and talking about like guitar specs, yes, we can talk about acoustic guitars versus electric guitars. We already talked about how electric guitars, the necks are smaller, the strings are thinner, so it's just easier to maneuver, easier to press the strings down, right? But within electric guitars or within acoustic guitars, you can have some where the action or the height of the strings above the fretboard is really, really high, or it can have some other problems that make it difficult to play. Now you can't always avoid that if maybe you don't have a choice of, maybe you can't just go to the store and buy a new guitar today or something like that. If you can, great. And then what I'm about to say next will help you with that. But if you can't, here's something to think about when it comes to actual brands. So there are a lot of brands of guitars. There are some guitar brands that are a lot bigger than other brands, just like shoes, like Nike and Adidas, right? They're the big shoe brands. What I would suggest is that you probably stick with the biggest brands like Fender or Gibson or the ones that have been around the longest. And the reason is because the companies are bigger and therefore they can afford to make more affordable guitars at a higher quality. So what that means is the likelihood, if you go with like a Fender or a Gibson or something that is like an Epiphone, something that is a huge brand guitar, the chances are the lower in price you go with the guitars, the higher the quality is going to be because they can afford to build into that quality because they have economies of scale. So that's my answer to how should you think about brands as a beginning guitar player, which brand should you go with? I would go with one of the bigger brands because, again, chances are you're going to be able to get a higher quality instrument that's easier to play that will allow you to want to keep playing and keep progressing at a lower cost than something that's more expensive.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, we talked about in the past that you really want to get a guitar that inspires you, and I think that's a huge point.
Totally.
Awesome, awesome. Well, here is another question related to that. So this question is: I've seen in the past that you've built your own guitars. That's something I'm really interested in. Where should I start with building my own guitar?
Okay, so it is true that I prior to having this guitar, I did build my own guitars that I played for about 10 years or pretty close to 10 years. And the reason is because I wanted to have certain specs, certain neck sizes. I actually like a neck that's flat on the back. If you can see this neck is actually flat on three sides. So this is flat, and this is flat. It's not round, which seems counterintuitive. It seems like it would be uncomfortable, but it actually allows you to stretch your fingers and move your hand around a lot easier. So anyway, I got into ergonomic guitars, and that's where I discovered the whole flat neck thing. And the guitars that I would build, I like stainless frets. This guitar also, I don't know if you can tell this, but the frets start slanting a little bit this way. It's has a little bit of a fan to it. And anyway, we can talk about ergonomics and all that stuff later. But the point is, where do you get started with building your own guitars? Well, I would say, first of all, it depends on why do you want to build your own guitars? Do you want to build them to play or do you want to build them to sell? If you want to build them to sell, then basically go out there to your guitar store, maybe talk to your local guitar person or go online and just see what kind of guitars people are wanting to buy. I don't think that's what this question is asking. I think it's more about building your own guitar to be able to play it. So as far as that goes, you have to consider what type of music do you like. Why do you want to build your own guitar? If it's to play it, consider, what type of music do you want to play? Do you want to play something like really fast shred metal type playing? Or do you want to play something that's like bluegrass or country where people play finger picking and things like that? The reason you want to know that is because different guitar specs, different sizes of the necks and frets and fretboard material and all that kind of stuff lends itself to a particular type of playing. For example, we've all seen those huge jazz guitars, right, where somebody has to reach around it like this, and it's like a big box. They call it a jazz box, actually. That lends itself to playing jazz. And then something like this, for example, which I don't play, fast, shreddy type stuff, but a lot of people use these types of guitars for things like that. And that's because the neck is faster, as they say. This particular one is flat on the back. The fretboard is very flat. It's not really round like some old Fender guitars, Telecasters, Stratocasters, etc. So step number one would be decide what you want to do with your custom guitar. Do you want to play blues? Do you want to play jazz? Do you want to play, whatever? Decide what that is. And then when you decide what that is, if you don't already have an idea of this, start studying the types of guitars that people use in those genres Like for example, a Stratocaster is probably one of the biggest all-time blues guitars, right? Most Stratocasters have similar specs. Like the modern Fender Stratocasters that you can buy, I believe they're like 9.5-inch fretboard radius. The neck is usually pretty thin, has 22 frets, things like that. You start to study and see the commonalities of the types of guitars that you like based on the genre that you like. What are the common specs? That gives you a kind of a blueprint to or a starting point or platform to build your own stuff. And personally, when it comes to building guitars, there's a lot of sites that you can go look at to get custom necks or custom bodies or custom pieces that you want to put together your own guitar. The very first time you do it, I would recommend putting together what's called, like most people call it, a parts caster, or a guitar that's made of parts that are already made. Like you can get a body that's already made, a neck that's already made, etc., and you assemble it essentially. You choose your pickups and everything like that, but it's a lot. You essentially just finish it, meaning like you paint it or stain it or whatever it is, and you put it together. You don't have to actually make it. Um, and the last thing I would say is, honestly, most of the guitar bodies and necks and things like that that I've bought have come from a company called Warmoth. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but warmoth.com. I think they're up in Seattle. City that starts with a P. I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, I always buy my stuff from them. I really like them. I'm not affiliated with Warmoth in any way. So anybody from Warmoth, if you're listening, I love you guys. I love your stuff. In fact, I'm probably going to order another neck pretty soon. I was thinking about it earlier today.
Nice.
Um, yeah, but anyway, that's probably what I would do. So you can go to warmoth.com and they have like a process they can walk you through online to help you build your guitar. And there's so many options. They have a lot of helpful information about the different types of woods, the different neck sizes, all kind of stuff that will point you in the right direction. And basically, you'll be able to virtually online build your guitar, and you can see how much it costs and all that. But that's what I would do, and that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Hey, the Orange Cowboy. Hey, thanks for hopping in. He says, I'm a month-old student studying guitar, mastering, phrasing, and I'm already jamming with the songs online. It's the first time I like the sound and flow I'm creating. That's
That's
awesome,
what it's
dude.
all about.
Yeah,
Being able
that's
to
great.
create your own music changes everything.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for showing up, man. Sweet. All right. Next question. This one's from Jennifer. She asked, "Do I have to cut my fingernails to learn guitar?" It's a good
Do
question.
you have to? No. Should you? Yes. Basically, what happens with your fingernails, sometimes, I actually used to, when I had students in person, I would sometimes they wouldn't be able to play certain things, or they would mute notes or whatever, and you could see their fingernails are pretty long. And I would literally just say, "Hey, go cut your fingernails," like, and then come back and we'll keep playing, right? What happens is all of our fingernails grow. Sometimes they just get a little bit longer to where when you're trying to play something, for example, if you're trying to do a bend or move your fingers along the fretboard, a bend is the worst incidence, I guess, of having long fingernails. When you're doing this, something like that, your fingernails will just dig into the fretboard, and it will either hurt, because it will pull your fingernail or rip your fingernail, or it will just make this creaky sound, or you won't be able to move the string smoothly. So, bottom line is, yes, if you just cut your fingernails, it makes playing guitar a lot easier.
Yeah, that was on. I did a lot of touring, and that was like the when you're on the road for a long time. You're sometimes some hygiene things start to take a back seat, and having a fingernail clippers in my gig bag at all times in my case, my guitar case, was like a lifesaver.
I
Yeah,
never thought about that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, for sure. All right, awesome, awesome, sweet. Yeah, here we go. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. Aaron says, I find it so much easier to keep them short for ease of playing. Absolutely
Exactly.
agree. Yeah, for real. All right, I'm an adult is the next question. I'm an adult and I have no musical training. Can I still learn guitar? Where do I get started?
Can you still learn guitar if you're an adult and you have no musical training? Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody starts somewhere, right? So it doesn't matter if you're 100 years old or 10 years old, you still have to start. So yeah, it's really a decision is what it comes down to. A lot of people ask, is it too late in life to start playing guitar, or maybe they picked it up, or maybe they've messed around with some chords or something like that, and it's not coming really easily. Well, here's a newsflash: it doesn't come easy to anybody in the very beginning, and it's really just a decision. Are you going to decide to get better at the guitar? If you make the decision, if it's something that you really want to do, then yes, you can do it. You just have to find the right steps. But that goes for anything in life. If you want to learn how to play hockey, you got to have a good coach to teach you how to play, right? The same thing for guitar. If you want to learn how to play guitar, you need a good coach or a good system or a good strategy or a good, step-by-step method to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and when to move on. If you don't have that, you will get frustrated, you will spin your wheels, you won't make as much progress as you want, and you'll probably think about giving up. It's just the way it is. But as far as being adult, where should you get started? Pretty much the same place anybody else would get started, um, at any age. First of all, it depends on what you want to do with the guitar. So the broadest categories, for those listening, the broadest categories of things that people would want to do with a guitar is either play lead guitar, which most beginners aren't necessarily interested in because they just need to start learning how to play chords. But most people are either drawn to playing lead guitar or playing rhythm guitar and chords and things like that. Most people who are drawn to playing rhythm guitar, a lot of them have acoustic guitars, and just because it's easier for strumming, it sounds better, it sounds bigger, etc. Especially if you want to sing along. But where I would start is, no matter what you want to be able to do, I would start with learning basic chords. And I don't mean like your full open chords, like this is a G chord or a D chord or a C chord. Some people can, it just depends. It depends on what you want to do. Some people can start to make these bigger chords a little easier at first. Some people can. It just depends. What I would do though at the very beginning is, what you're looking for is you want to see progress and you want to hear something musical. So let me give you an actual example. I'll drop my pick here. What I would do, and what we always did in lessons, is there are some really simple chords that you can play at the very beginning. And this is like absolute beginner. This is your very first day ever picking up the guitar. If you go to a guitar store or whatever, here's what you can do, right? Instead of trying to learn these huge chords, and I say huge because they span all of the strings, like a D chord or a G chord, or definitely not a bar chord, right? You can do what I call one finger chords or one note chords. And what that is on your high E string, I'm going to give you a choice of 4 notes. And on the B string and the E string, there's 2 high strings right here. You can either play the note on the B string on the first fret or the note on the E string on the first fret. That's two chords that we can play, and I'll show you why it's a chord in a minute. Or you can go to the 3rd fret and play the same strings. So just the B string, just the E string, right? And when you do that, you can make a chord progression, or you can make kind of make a song, or you can start practicing strumming by just using one finger and one note. So if I play, let's say, just this note here, if I'm a beginner, I'm going to have to look at what strings I'm strumming. Probably going to strum the last 3 strings or the last 2 strings. It really doesn't matter. We just want to make some music. So none of that necessarily sounds great, but the point is it gives us a chord to play. So we can make up chord progressions. So even if I just did 2 strums per chord, like this, I can make a song out of it. Or then I might go, you're just starting to make some music, right? This is not meant to impress anybody or play around a campfire or play a guitar solo or anything. It's just an easy way to get started. So if you're just starting out, literally, I would just do that exact same thing, what I just showed you right there. Play around with those 4 little chords, start to put some rhythm to them, and see what you can come up with. Play one 4 times, then change to another one. Or play one 2 times, change to another one. Switch back and forth. Just see what you can do. And that will just at least get you started. Getting used to holding a pick or strumming the strings, or moving your finger around to the frets. And then you can focus on starting to build the bigger chords like the G, D, C, etc. So that's where I would start for an absolute brand new beginner.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because I think being able to play like strum the guitar right away and get like just with that the one note will help give you just a little bit more confidence
Yeah,
into like, okay, this actually sounds good, right?
right. It shows you that you can actually make something that sounds like music, right?
Yeah.
It's not a Mozart symphony, but it's like, oh, okay, I see how this works. And you just keep going. That's it.
Yeah, and I always like what you normally say is that, or what you got from Benjamin Disraeli, that everyone has music inside of them, right? That I think probably the hardest people to start learning guitar are the ones that have never heard a single note ever played or have never sang along to a song, right? Those are the people that are struggle with learning music. But I think that everyone has listened to music. There's some kind of rhythm, there's some kind of music inside you, so that it's only as difficult as you want to make it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about getting a song stuck in your head, how many people do you know who have never got a song stuck in their head? Probably zero, right?
Yeah.
If you can get a song stuck in your head, well, you have music inside you. You can play it. You just have to learn how to do it. And what I just showed you with those couple of little notes is just an easy way to start allowing you to express yourself rather than doing something frustrating at the very beginning, which is like, let's say we have a teacher tries to make you read music notation and play Mary Had a Little Lamb. I mean, how frustrating is that? If you just want to sit down and play Metallica or you just want to, express something, that's not going to make you want to continue playing guitar, right? So again, what I just showed you is a simple way to not only be able to play some chords, to do some strumming, but also to be able to start to improvise a little bit, to start to express yourself and actually play something that you feel rather than, Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Loving it, guys. Thank you guys so much for showing up live. For those of you who are watching live, definitely hit a like, comment, all that stuff. Let's boost us up in the algorithm. I think there's a lot of really good stuff that, a lot of questions that don't get answered, or it's really hard to find, or you have to hire a
Yeah.
guitar teacher to come out to your house so that you can actually ask these questions. So, loving it. All right, here we go. Next question. What is a tab and should I learn it? What is a tab and should I learn it?
Yeah, so a lot of people get confused about what's called for shorthand tab. That's short for tablature, and what that is a musical notation system that's unique to the guitar. It's unique to the guitar because if we think about standard music notation, we've all seen the staff with a bunch of little notes, sheet music, right? We've all seen that. But if you if you look back through history at the instruments that existed, right? The guitar, especially like the electric guitar, it's a very young instrument. It's not that old, right? So if you look at music notation, it's a lot easier to follow along to that if you play the piano because it's more intuitive. For example, if I have a piano in front of me and I'm looking at sheet music in front of me, if I play, if the sheet music, the little dots start to go up like this, well, I can play up in pitch on the piano. If the music notation goes down, I can go down in pitch in the piano. It's just more intuitive. It just makes more sense. And then on the piano, players tend to think in terms of notes a lot more than on the guitar, which, you know, that's a different topic. But on the guitar, when you pick the guitar up, um, as opposed to a piano, let's say where there's an E note. And on a piano, if you've ever seen, and you can go look at this if you're not familiar with what I'm saying, on a piano, there's a section that repeats over and over and over again in terms of the keys. We have white keys and we have black keys. So there are, if you notice on the black keys, there are a section of 3 black keys and then 2 black keys, then 3 black keys, then 2 black keys, 3 black, 2 black, 3 black, 2 black. That repeats over and over again. And if you take a whole section of a certain amount of white keys with the 3 black keys and the 2 black keys together, that makes what's called an octave. And those octaves repeat over and over and over on a piano. So my point is, it's very intuitive to start playing a piano and playing up in pitch or down in pitch, and all of the notes, the way that the keys are arranged, are the same all across the neck, all across the neck, all across the piano, the keyboard. But on a guitar neck, it's not intuitive. You have to learn where things are. So if you're trying to read sheet music or play traditional music on a guitar, you have to really study for a long time to figure out where are all the notes. For example, there's an E note right here. It doesn't even look like there's a note here, right? This is the open E note. That note is actually right here. If we had a 0 fret, it would be right here. So there's an E note here. There's an E note here on the A string. There's an the A string. There's an E note here. There's an E note here. So you have to study and learn where all these notes are, and it makes it really, really difficult to just play anything on the guitar. It's really frustrating. It's literally trying to learn a whole nother language just so you can play something basic, and that's really boring. So guitar tablature is a system of numbers. There's 6 lines to represent the 6 guitar strings, and then whatever line you're on, there will be a number, and that number tells you which fret to play on. So if I have a tab, a tab means like the word tab or tablature relates to the six strings across the page with numbers on it. The system is called tablature. So if I have, if you can imagine tablature like like this, where we have six strings or six lines going across the page, and on the very top string there's a number six. That's telling me that on this top string I need to play the sixth fret right here. That's what it's telling me to do. The downside of the tab is, well, the easy part of it is you just look at the guitar fretboard and you can look at the numbers on the tabs and on the six strings, and you can know where to put your fingers in terms of the fret numbers. However, tabs are extremely limiting because they don't give you any sense of the rhythm. There's no notation for rhythm or very little. They can give you some symbols for doing bends and things like that, but again, you don't have a rhythm component. You don't know how much to do it. You don't know how long to hold it. So it makes it really difficult. So you have to, in order to use tabs, you have to start developing your ear to be able to listen to the song, to be able to play the numbers in the right way. Now, should you use tablature or not? That's a different topic. And in my opinion, the best thing that you can do is learn how to play your guitar without anything, without any sheet music, without any tabs, without anything, just by listening. And you can develop your ear to hear chords, to hear intervals within scales, to hear the right note, to hear the seven feelings as we talk about, and which feeling somebody is playing. And you can then know how to play it across your guitar neck. Just like we talked about earlier about the piano, that there's this one pattern on the piano that repeats over and over and over and over again. There's actually also a pattern that repeats over and over and over and over again, just like that on your guitar neck, except it spans across seven strings. So there's literally an invisible string that this pattern uses. But once you know this pattern and how it repeats across the whole neck, you don't have to think anymore about, well, here's an E note and here's an E note and here's an E note and here's an E note, and just like music notation, you don't have to think about any of that. All you do is play literally one pattern anywhere on the guitar neck, just like a piano has that one pattern that repeats over and over again, and you learn to hear the different feeling of the seven feelings in music that you play at any time. So you literally, that's how you can start playing by feel and hit the note that you want to hear, or hit the music that's in your head. That's how you can start doing that without having to think about where are you on the neck and what notes are you playing and what notes are in the key and all that boring stuff that all came from the piano and traditional music theory. You can just skip over all that stuff. You don't need any of that. But anyway, about tablature. Tablature can be a useful tool if you just can't figure something out. If you just need to go and look at some numbers or some chords or something, do it, but don't be dependent on it. Do it, get what you need, and then get away from it and start to use your ear, because your ear is what needs to guide you, not your eyes.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. I always found it the most difficult when I'm trying to learn like a guitar solo or something on tabs, and there's no like bars from when the measures end and begin, and it gets frustrating really quickly if you don't know the song that well. So that's a
Totally.
good point. Yeah. All righty then. The next question is, what accessories do you recommend I get for my guitar?
Okay, broad question. So
It's very broad. You can go anywhere with
what
this.
what accessories to get? Well, I guess we first have to determine what is an accessory for your guitar. Um, do you mean like straps, like a guitar strap? If you intend on, well, let's name some accessories first. So you can have a guitar strap, you can have a tuner, right? A guitar tuner. They have those clip-on tuners. If I had a headstock, you could clip it onto the headstock. Those are really good. In fact, we always use those at gigs, and just super easy to hit the button and tune your guitar. So you can have cables. If you have an electric guitar, you might need a cable. Some guitars have a whammy bar, like this one has a hole right here where I could stick a little bar in there, moves the strings up and down. Um, what else? What else would be some accessories, Brock, for a guitar?
Man, I could probably say a gig bag, just in case.
Gig
Just
bag, okay.
and that could be just traveling to like a friend's house or something. You want to bring your guitar, a campfire. You don't want to just throw it in the back in the back trunk or something like that.
Yeah,
That's a good one. Um, Capo. I like using
capo,
a capo. I play a lot of acoustic guitar, so capo is very helpful. If you
okay.
don't know what a capo is, it'll bar all the strings, yeah, on a certain fret, so that you can play open chords in a higher key without needing to change shapes, which is really helpful.
Hmm.
Ooh, here's a good one. Guitar pick.
Guitar pick. That's what I was going to say. So let's
Yeah.
let's let's actually go back through all of the accessories that we just mentioned, and let's just comment on
Yeah.
whether you would need it or not. So I think a gig bag is a great one. Um, like you said, if you a bag, you don't necessarily need a hard shell case, but let's just talk about cases. I mean, if you have a nice guitar and you want to keep it nice, and depending on what environment you're in, if you're traveling, if you put it in the car a lot or things like that, you definitely want to have some kind of a case or at least a bag, right? A gig bag. I think maybe you might agree with this, Brock, but I most of the musicians that I've played with or recorded with, we usually have bags. It's just easier than a big case. It's just smaller. You can fit more. You can fit stuff in there. It's lighter. You carry it around easier. So
Yeah.
might be a consideration. Yeah.
I noticed that on tour, most guys actually shifted from going from hard shell cases. Well, I mean, if you, on bus tours, a lot of guys don't want to throw their guitars in the back with all of the rest of the gear, so they
Hmm.
actually get a really nice soft case, really padded ones, and they'll put those either underneath the bus with like the suitcases and luggage, or they'd either keep them on the bus near their bunks or something like that in the back room. So, yeah,
Yeah. So that's just something to consider if you're looking for a case or a bag. I personally don't feel like hard shell cases are necessary most of the time, but it just depends on your case, or it depends on your situation, if you need one or not. And I would also say that as far as a case or a gig bag, you don't always need one. Like if your guitar is just going to be at home, you're never going to take it outside, you're never going to take it in the car, it's just going to sit there. You don't necessarily need a case. I mean, but let's keep going through these other accessories. So electric guitar. If you play an electric guitar or if you have an acoustic electric or electric acoustic, then you definitely want to have a cable so you can plug it into an amp if you have one. You don't have to though if you have an acoustic electric. You can just play it as acoustic, at least at first. Guitar picks. If you want to play with a pick, then you definitely have to buy some so you can start getting used to playing with them. We have other videos that we can link to for what type of pick should you play. That's kind of a deeper topic there. Um, Brock, you mentioned a capo, so or as they say, my brother. Quick short story. My brother told me a couple of weeks ago that they were on tour I think they were in London. Yeah, they were in London, and they were about to play, and he was like, "Hey, Does anybody have a capo?" And everybody's like, "What are you talking about, a capo?" And anyway, he kept asking, and then eventually some guy was like, "Oh, you mean a capo?" And anyway, so yeah, they call it different things in different places. So anyway, capo is just a little clip, basically. We've most people have seen them, even if they don't realize it, where you squeeze it. There's different ways to do it. You squeeze it and it just clips onto your guitar and stays there. If you see a bunch of guys that play acoustic, you might see them reach over with this hand, move the capo, and then start playing again, something like that. But basically, the point of that thing is if you plan on playing songs in different keys, but only using your open chord shapes, that D cowboy chords as they call them. So D, G, C, things like that. You can move the capo around and play those same chords in different places, and all that does is move the pitch higher or lower. That's all that does. Guitar tuner, I would say you have to have a guitar tuner because if you don't know how to tune your guitar, I mean, not that you don't know how to. It's just that if your guitar isn't in tune, it's going to be very difficult to start to develop your ear. Nothing's going to sound good. It's going to be frustrating. And you're going to start playing things that you can't match the song because the song is in tune, right? So you can get one of those little clip-on tuners that go on the end of the headstock. That's probably the most cost-effective way to do it. Or you can have a pedal tuner, or you can have an app on your phone. That's what I use now, honestly. I
oh
just
yeah,
have an app on my phone. I think it's called Guitar Tuna. And
that's what I use. Yep.
yeah, there you go.
Yep.
And anyway, yeah, it just works. I put it right on my knee next to my guitar and just tune it, and there you go. That's it. So also a guitar strap. If you if you plan on playing standing up, I would definitely recommend a guitar strap. I don't know how you would play standing up without one, but it's also a good thing even if you don't plan on like playing on stage or something like that. You think you're always going to be sitting down. It's actually good practice to plan to play standing up in general because you learn kind of a new way around your guitar where you're not always sitting down like this and you're looking down over the guitar neck. What that allows you to do is play well or play your guitar better in more environments, in more places. So if you go to your friend's house, you go to a work party, or anywhere, anything like that, or if you play a friend's guitar, for example, um, you don't want to get stuck only being able to play only your guitar, only in one position, only in one room, etc., unless that's all you ever plan on doing. So a guitar strap can help with that because it allows you to stand up, move around, and you just get used to playing guitar in general a lot more. So, Brock, were there any more accessories that we talked about
I don't
other
know,
than
but
a whammy bar?
I was gonna say that because I played a lot of bass guitar, and the wider the strap is, the more comfortable it is. A lot of people don't realize that, especially if
Yeah,
you have a
that's a good tip.
heavier guitar or something like that. Wider actually disperses the weight of the guitar over your shoulder more. So that's
Yeah, that's a great tip. So if you
one little
do
side
plan
tip.
on standing up for a long time or playing gigs or shows or something like that, wider strap can definitely help because, like Brock said, if you have a thinner one, it will kind of cut into your shoulder and it will make your back hurt a lot faster, and it's just fatiguing. And that obviously takes away from you thinking about your guitar playing.
Yeah, I think those are I mean, those. I really can't think of anything outside of like for a beginner. Like, what should you definitely get? You know, we said cables, we said guitar picks,
Yeah,
straps. A capo is helpful if you're going to play a lot of acoustic guitar or something like that. But those are definitely the cores for
yeah,
me.
I would agree with that.
Nice. All right, all right. Well, we have 4 questions left, and I think this is a good time to let you know if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is the perfect time to do it. Hit the like button, comment what you thought about this video, what you thought about some of these questions, subscribe button, and you guys know the bell notification, so you get notifications every time we do these Q&As. We're going to do these every couple of weeks. We're going to have lots of questions, and if you want to get some questions in, comment below some questions that you might have, and we'll try to get them in the next video. So, for the next question, it's related to one of the things you brought up. Should I play standing or sitting?
That's a good question. There you go. So, should you play standing or sitting? We touched on this earlier, but I will say that you should is a strong word, right? But in a perfect world, you should do both. The reason is because if you only play sitting down, if you only play in one position, if you only play in one room, if you only play one guitar, etc., you're going to get so used to only doing that one thing that if anything is different, you're going to have a hard time. For example, if you go to a friend's house, if you even if you take your own guitar, if you're in a different environment, if you're in a different chair, if you're sitting on the couch, or if you need to stand up, or if you go to a friend's house or a party, or it doesn't matter, family's house, an event, etc. If they have another guitar that you want to play, if you go to a jam session or something, you might have to play somebody else's guitar. It's going to be different, and you have to get used to that. So, in terms of standing up versus sitting down, it's useful to play standing up because you actually just get used to moving your body around and playing the guitar in different positions. And when you do that, that helps you not only just get familiar with playing guitar in general, because at first, the first time you do anything, it's awkward. When you first stand up, it's awkward. But when you do it and you keep doing it, you're going to start getting those comfortable positions. Like, for example, where should I put my arm? On the this part of the guitar. Where should I rest my arm? If you're just now standing up for the very first time and you're playing in a room full of people, well, you're going to be thinking about where should I rest my arm because you've never done it before and it feels uncomfortable. And you're not going to be focusing on what you're playing. And then everybody might be like, is this guy any good? I don't know about this. So you want to try to avoid that. Point is, it's best to try to play in as many different environments, or just at least a few different environments, meaning in different rooms, and standing up with a strap, sitting down, because you just get used to all the different scenarios that you can be in when you play your guitar. You get used to all the different ways the guitar can feel on your body. And then also playing other people's guitars and playing different types of guitars also gets you more used to that as well, because there's different neck shapes, there's different neck widths, there's different string gauges, the body is different. It's just all different. So the point is, in my opinion, the more of those environments or situations you can expose yourself to, the better all around guitar player you're going to be, because you're going to be more and more comfortable in those different scenarios, so you can focus on playing the guitar and actually sounding good with it, rather than having all your attention diverted by, where should my arm be? Do I look silly? Should I tuck my shirt in? You don't want to worry about any of that stuff. So yes, standing up is helpful when you play guitar, but you don't have to.
There's a little side story. Are you familiar with the bass player James Jamerson?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, there's a pretty entertaining story of Marvin Gaye wanting him to come in and play the song "What's Going On." This I don't know how if this is a rumor or if it's true. I read an interview on it once, but he wanted James Jamerson to play the bass line, but when they called James in, he was too intoxicated, so he actually laid on his back to play the guitar the bass part, and it's a
Wow.
famous bass part. So
Well, there you go.
maybe you need to practice on your back. That's or
Yeah, if you come home too intoxicated, you just want to play guitar. There you go.
lay down. Come on, you're playing your bed laying down like that's yeah
Actually, yes, that's a great
yeah.
tip, by
Come
the way.
on.
If you want to be able to play without looking, play when you're laying in your bed when the room is dark. You can't see anything, and you have to
Mm.
learn to rely on your ear. That's what I used to do.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that. Awesome. Well, here's a quick question. I don't know if you can answer this one real quick, but this is from Robert Fagan in the chat. He says, "I'm taking Guitar Grid 101 and how to learn any song. Awesome courses. I've gone down some lesson rabbit holes. Which class would you suggest next?"
So, Robert, you said you're taking Guitar Grid 101 and How to Learn Any Song or Solo. I would suggest two things based on those two paths. So, Guitar Grid 101 is essentially, for those of you who don't know, teaches you about the grid that's on the neck, the invisible the invisible grid that's on the neck that teaches you how to hit all the right notes without having to think about it. So you can literally move across the neck, play in any key, and you don't have to think about the notes that you're playing. You can just start playing by feel, and that's what Robert is referring to. So if you're playing Guitar Grid 101, excuse me, if you're taking Guitar Grid 101 and you want to keep playing more lead guitar type stuff, which will actually lead to how the whole fretboard works, it will tell you the why behind how everything works. The next step from that would be a course called Guitar Grid Mastery. And like I said, that we talked about this earlier, but that actually gives you that 1 7 string pattern that repeats across the whole neck that shows you how to play in any key without having to think about it. It is the same repeating pattern that's on the piano, just applied to the guitar, but nobody talks about it because it involves an invisible string. But once you do know it, it's literally just like, I mean, I've literally had guys laugh out loud in person in front of me when they see how easy it is because it's literally just one pattern that repeats across the entire neck. You can play up and down the neck anywhere in any key, any mode, anything like that. So that's what I would do if you're more interested in following your curiosity about lead guitar. After Guitar Grid 101, go to Guitar Grid Mastery. Now, for how to learn any song or solo, that is, for those of you who don't know, that is a repeatable process that I actually discovered from a pro bass player who showed me how does him and his band, how do they go to a rehearsal without knowing any songs and then learn all the songs in like 15 minutes? How do they do that? And he showed me an actual repeatable process called the SHL method, which literally allows you to start playing along with any song or solo in just a few minutes when you get used to doing it. And you can continue to progress from there. You can play more and more difficult, songs and solos from that point. But that's the point of how to learn any song or solo. So after how to learn any song or solo, what I would actually do from there is go to a course called How to Know All the Right Chords. Now, what that does is it literally just shows you how do you know what chords sound good together depending on what the key is. And the cool thing is you don't have to think about what the chords are called. You don't have to think about what are the notes in the key of G, for example, versus the key of F sharp, for example, which gets really boring, gets really confusing, and takes a lot of time to figure out, right? We don't want to have to think about any of that kind of stuff. We just want to be able to pick up the guitar and just play and play whatever we feel. So how to know all the right chords will teach you literally how to instantly know all the right chords depending on whatever key you're in. And I mentioned that other course before, Guitar Grid Mastery. If you take Guitar Grid Mastery and how to know all the right chords together, they work together because what you learn in Guitar Grid Mastery shows you how do you know how to learn all the right chords. So it all works together. It's all a complete system. So anyway, Robert, thanks for asking the question. Just to recap for everybody who is watching, if you're taking Guitar Grid 101, I would go to Guitar Grid Mastery next. If you're taking How to Learn Any Song or Solo, I would go to How to Know All the Right Chords next. So hopefully that helps, Robert.
Yeah, awesome. And if you guys don't know, we do have some courses. There is a free course in the description of this video. If you're interested, if you've never done anything with Breakthrough Guitar and you want to get your feet wet on what it's all about, we do have a free course in the description. Definitely check it out. If you want to dive into some of our other courses, go to breakthroughguitar.com/courses. We've got a ton of stuff over there that you can check out. Some of those courses that Jonathan's talking about and some really awesome things that we've been doing to really grow the Breakthrough Guitar community and give you guys a lot of value. So awesome. We got 3 questions left. Thanks for the question, Robert. Here we are. Here we go. All right. What is the correct posture when I'm learning guitar?
So, okay, what's the correct posture when you're learning guitar? Um, Correct is a strong word. I'm when it comes to playing guitar, when it comes to something that's personal and expressive, I'm not going to say that you should do anything or that something is correct or the right way. However, there are ways that are proven to be effective and many other ways that are proven to be ineffective or harder, right? So our job is to guide you toward the easier route, the thing that's going to give you the most fun on guitar, where you progress the fastest, have the most fun, have the best time with it, and actually reach your guitar playing goals, rather than what we know makes it harder, makes it more difficult, makes it not fun, makes you want to put the guitar down, etc. Okay, so I'm not going to say there's a correct way, but here's the way I recommend to help your back, to help your playing, etc. Um, if you've ever heard of something called classical position on guitar, it's kind of like the way I'm holding the guitar right now, and I'll show you exactly what that means. But um, don't let the word classical scare you if you don't like or don't play classical guitar. It's just a name. Just I don't know, just like a beef steak, for example. I don't know why they call it that. It's just what it's called, right? But um, basically, most guitar players, especially if they play blues or rock or something that's rock based, I'm right-handed. This is my right hand, and we usually play the guitar sitting on our strumming hand leg. Like this is my strumming hand leg right here. So you can see it like this. And what we do is we usually lean over our guitars like this. And over time, this putting your guitar on your leg that you're strumming with, of your strumming hand, will cause your shoulder to kink up like this. Your back gets twisted. I actually have, since middle school, I've had pretty bad scoliosis, so my spine is literally curved all the way down. And part of it, I'm willing to bet, is a result of doing this for many, many years. But when you do this, you won't be able to play for very long. It'll start to hurt, etc. So what I recommend is, like I said, what's called classical position on guitar. And basically what that is actually, let me move this down a little bit more. You actually want to move your guitar to your fretting hand leg. This is my fretting hand. I want to move my guitar like this, right where, like the guitar is like a seat belt. You can see the guitar is like a seat belt right across my body. And the guitar is going to rest on your fretting hand leg like this. And actually, what that will allow you to do is, not only can it balance itself sometimes, like I don't have to be picking the neck up. That's a problem with a lot of guitars, is that the neck is very heavy. But also, if your guitar is like a seat belt, like this, look where my back is. I'm sitting straight up. My spine is straight. My shoulders are down. So this way, all I have to do is just reach my hands like this, and I'm comfortable. Like my back is relaxed, my shoulders are relaxed. I can play for so much longer like this. But what's another benefit that people don't realize is that if you look at my hand, and here's my thumb, most people, when they play with their leg, with their guitar on their strumming hand leg, their guitar neck goes flat like this. It's not tilted up. It goes flat, and it's too far down from their shoulder. So they'll have to bend down, and their thumb will usually be over the top, and it's hard to reach the notes, right? And also, if my hand is in this position, my fretting hand, this is as far apart as I can spread my pinky finger and my index finger. I can't go more than that, right? And so people think they have a problem playing guitar, but it's usually just their posture that they need to adjust, and adjust their fretting hand position. They can do a whole lot more stuff on the guitar. So if I move my guitar into a classical position, now my back is straight, my head is straight, my shoulders are completely relaxed, my guitar is almost balancing itself, right? And now, look, if I put my thumb on the back of the neck right here, now look how far I can spread my hands out. That's like 3 or 4 frets longer, right? Way, way bigger of a difference. Now, will it feel weird when you do this for the very first time? Yeah, but what doesn't feel weird when you do it for the very first time? If you start playing in this classical position, um, you will start to notice that you have less pain, you can play longer, you can play better, you can hit notes easier, and you'll actually start to prefer this position. And then you'll go out there and watch all your favorite guitar players who are really, really good, and you'll notice that they do the same thing. Most of them do the same position. All the really, really good guitar players, they have their guitar straps on if they're standing up and their guitar is higher than most people who are just trying to look cool, with their guitar all the way down here. That's not going to help you play guitar. It's going to hurt your back, it's going to hurt your neck over time, and it's going to really hinder your ability to actually hit the notes and play and sound good. You want to have classical position, and ideally, you want to have the guitar with the strap on, you want to have the guitar in the same position as you're sitting down. Put your strap short enough to where it's exactly the same when you stand up. So it's always in that same position, just like that. So that's what I would say about how should you position your guitar and your posture.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I now realize how terrible my posture is. My back's hurting now. Okay, that was really good. That was really great. I don't know if you guys got a lot out of that. That was really good stuff. So, all right, 2 questions left. The next question, this one's pretty general. How do I get the most out of my practice time?
That's a good question, actually. How do you get the most out of your guitar practice time? Okay, so this is always going to depend on what you want to do with your guitar playing. Okay, do you want to be able to, for example, what's your goal? Do you want to be able to pick up the guitar and shred up and down the neck? Do you want to pick up an acoustic guitar, play songs around a campfire, etc.? Depending on what your goal is going to determine what's the best use of your practice time. Okay, that's in general. I'm making 2 extreme examples, or 2 very different examples, so we can see that it requires going down different paths. You have to decide what path you want to go down first. Even if you ultimately want to be able to play everything, I would say whatever you're most interested in being able to do right now, follow that path. Okay. So here's the 2 extremes. If you're interested in sitting around like a campfire or just playing the acoustic guitar, just playing chords, like strumming along with songs, or picking up the guitar, going down this path, and being able to play across the neck and play lead guitar and things like that, it's going to determine what you do when you practice. So that's step number 1. Decide what you want to be able to do on the guitar. And then the second step would be, there's actually another layer of nuance to this, which involves challenges. So we've all heard the term roadblock. You don't hit a roadblock until you start driving down the road. So the first step is you have to decide which road you want to go down, and only when you start driving down that road are you going to run into roadblocks. So what I mean is, if you pick the path of maybe wanting to play lead guitar, well, what problems are you going to have? You might run into the problem of always having your thumb up here, so you can't reach many notes. You might have the problem of maybe your pinky finger isn't that strong yet, so we need to work on dexterity, right? Maybe you can't stretch that far, so again, we need to work on specific dexterity exercises or something like that. Or maybe you are just beginning to start learning some scales, or how the scales connect together, or how to play across the neck, or notes on the fretboard, anything like that, right? So you're going to start encountering these roadblocks, and that determines what you should be focusing on right then, that eliminates the block so you can continue down the road to your goal. That's really how you determine what you want. Now, the thing is, most guitar players don't know what they don't know. So you can't possibly, there's a phrase, you can't read the label from inside the jar. So what I'm saying is, if you're the one playing the guitar, you've never been farther than you are right now with your guitar playing, you can't see what the next step should be. You can't really see if you're going down exactly the right path, or what exercises you should be working on, what order you should be working on them in, etc. And that's why so many guitar players get so lost and confused and frustrated, and they just wander around. They can't really determine what they should be doing, or they try some stuff, or they go to YouTube and they get frustrated. Even though it seems like sometimes you can learn a few bits and pieces of stuff, but you can't ever really do more than that, because you can't see how it all connects together. It's not a cohesive system that goes step by step by step in the right order and removes all of those roadblocks so you get to the goal. And that's really the point. So with that, I know this wasn't the question, but I just have to recommend that you find somebody that knows how to get students, how to get people to where you want to go with your guitar playing, and follow whatever path they have proven to lay out for people, because that's the fastest way to get where you want to go. Now, if you don't have, the quote luxury, if you don't have you're just not going to do that, or you just don't want to do that, then again, think about the 2 steps that I just said as far as how do you determine what you should be working on. First step is determine what road you want to go down, aka what goal do you want to reach with your guitar playing. And then second is, once you determine that, start driving down the road, meaning start playing something, or trying to play a song, or trying to play an exercise that you found somewhere, and determine what the roadblock is. When you can't physically play something, or you're running into trouble, or you're getting frustrated, ask yourself, what is in my way? What is blocking me right now? What is the one thing that if I could solve that one thing, then I can move forward. Then I can go further down the road. When you do that, then you need to isolate that one problem and work on it, just like they do road work, construction, right? On the side of the road, what do? They put the cones on the road and they go isolate that one place and they maybe they repave the road right there. And then boom, by the time you move the cones out of the way, now it's smooth. Now you can go further down the road. So you have to determine what type of exercises or what type of thing that you actually need to do when you sit down with your guitar that's going to get you past that roadblock and help you make progress to get further down the road that you want to go down.
Yeah, that's really good. I have a great analogy to that. I love gardening. Well, my wife loves gardening, and I love helping her. But we have a really awesome garden out back, and we grow a lot of tomatoes. That's what you do in the South, in Tennessee. You grow tomatoes, and what you find is that your tomato plants, when it's really thriving, it starts creating these vines that start branching out really really far, which is really cool. But what it does is when it gets to that point of the life cycle of the tomato plant, it actually stops producing uh, red tomatoes. You have a ton of tomatoes on in your garden that are green because it's focusing on branching out. And so right now our tomato plant is branching to the other beds that we have next to our tomato bed. So what you're supposed to do is you top off your tomato plant. Basically, what you're telling the tomato plant is stop growing vines and focus on the fruits that are already growing. And then when you top it off, the fruits that are on the vine actually start turning red. So there are some times where you need to stop trying to learn other things. And like you have all these skills now, start working on the fruits that you've already started producing.
Perfect.
That's
Beautiful.
my little
Love it.
2 cents. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of examples in nature for how we should be living our lives, right? Yeah. All right. This is the very last question. Thank you guys for hanging out. Those of you guys have been watching this entire time, or those of you guys watching the replay and you've gotten this far, you are amazing. I like you a lot. Last question. How do I find other musicians to play with?
Okay. So one of the struggles that most people encounter as a musician or somebody who's working on becoming a musician for the first time, and I say that because everybody can become a musician, um, is finding other people to communicate with. And I use the word communicate on purpose. So let's now talk about another metaphor: language, spoken language. If you, let's say, you didn't know any people and you were learning English for the very first time. Well, if you weren't able to talk to anybody, and let's say you had a book, and the only thing that you could do is read this book and read these little English phrases that are in this book. I don't know how you would do that. I guess you'd have to know another language first, but just assume you could do that, right? Well, actually, it's a better analogy if we say you already know English and then you are, learning Spanish, for example, of the book to be able to read the book. You can read it in English and you're trying to learn these phrases in Spanish. But in terms of music, you're going from not knowing the language of music to knowing the language of music. So we're going from 0 to 1. So let's again assume that you don't know anything about speaking the English language. You don't know how to talk at all. You don't have any other languages that you can speak. And somehow you're able to look at this book and learn English from this book. The point is, you would only be able to see what's in the book, regurgitate the few things that you picked up from the book, and that's it. You have a few bits and pieces of sentences or phrases that you might use in certain scenarios. For example, like how do I go to the bathroom, or can I order a burrito, or whatever it is. You would only be able to do those things, to repeat those same phrases right there. But if you don't talk to anybody else, you can't have a conversation. And only when you have a conversation do ideas evolve organically and lead somewhere, right? More ideas, just like a flower, the ideas unfold as you converse, as you have the conversation. Music is exactly the same way. Music is a language, and playing music with other people, unless you are just rehearsing, playing a song, regurgitating, if you're jamming, if you're improvising, you're literally just having a conversation. And just like a flower, the conversation will unfold as you play, as you go. And if you don't do that, then you can't develop that skill. And it is a skill. which means you can learn how to do it. And the only way to learn how to do it is by doing it, just like anything else. But if you sit alone in your bedroom all the time, the chances of you only being able to regurgitate bits and pieces of songs that you have played, um, and you can kind of improvise with some backing tracks or something like that, but that's all you'll really be able to do. You won't be able to really um, become a good conversationalist in terms of music unless you play with other people. Why? Because even if you improvise by yourself, well, first of all, if you just play songs, there's no creation that goes into that. You're just regurgitating previous songs. You might be able to add your own style to it or something, but it's still, the structure is already there. If you're improvising, let's say to a backing track, you can create ideas that way. Like you're going to get some ideas, but what happens with any new backing track is that you start to listen to the track and you start to have some musical ideas with that track. And the more that you listen to that track, you develop those same ideas that you had. But after that, there isn't anything else because you're not receiving any more input, any more information, any new musical information because the backing track is always the same every time you hit play. So you're going to have the same ideas. Unless you go play with other people and see their ideas and converse musically with them, your playing won't change. It won't evolve. So the question is, I know the question is not about like what's the benefits of playing with other people. It is, how can I play with other people? How do I find other people to play with? I just want to emphasize the importance of doing that because doing that is really what elevates you to the level of being a real musician, where you can just sit down and have a conversation with other people in music, and that's where the magic is, right? That's where the fulfillment is for the most part. Um, so how would you find other people? Well, it depends on where you live. If you have an internet connection, there are places you can go to jam with friends. And in fact, if you have a friend that plays music now with technology, even across the world, or across the country or whatever, if you can't meet with them in person, there are ways to go to the computer, even if you just do a Zoom call or something like that. You can still jam with people, etc., assuming you have a good internet connection. Assuming there are local people in your area and you don't like live in an igloo on Antarctica and there's literally nobody anywhere, what I would say is there's always a music scene in any town, no matter if it's big or small. What you could do is find some local shows, just start going to some local concerts and just starting to meet people, and see who plays and just starting to get introduced to them and see if you can join up with them to play something. If that's not your thing and you're not really into that, you can maybe go to a church because church definitely has musicians there. See if you can get involved. You can also go to a class if there's a guitar school or a music school or teachers or things like that in your local area. Even if there's one teacher, well, the teacher will teach other students. So you can just ask the teacher, hey, what about your other students? Can we meet each other? Can we jam together? Can we do something? So those are other outlets to be able to meet people in terms of being able to jam together. But I think the easiest thing is if you just have a friend who happens to play music or a family member, maybe have a grandchild or a son or daughter or your parents play or somebody plays that just see if you can get together sometime. Like let's have dinner and just jam. And even if it's always intimidating at the beginning. In fact, it's probably always intimidating anyway, just jamming with people, especially people who are a lot better than you. But it's okay. It's okay that you don't really know what to play. It's okay that the other person really doesn't know what to play. If they don't, it doesn't matter. You just start and you just learn as you go. Like I said, it's a conversation, and once you just start playing something, even if somebody just starts playing one chord, it starts the conversation, and that will give the other person ideas. And even if they have to try to tinker around on the guitar and play the wrong notes and mess up a bunch, who cares? They're trying to figure out that opinion, that musical opinion that they have as you're playing, and just let it happen. Let the mistakes happen. Let the wrong notes, the wrong chords, or whatever happen. You'll find the groove. You'll find a thread. You'll find some things that sound good. And then once you lock in, it feels amazing. And then you'll want to do it again. And then you'll want to do it again. And then you'll want to do it again. And before you know it, you'll start to get really, really good at this.
Yeah, for me, finding the best players have been mostly at church, but also I'm fortunate. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, So there are some places, if you're ever lucky, open jams where you just show up. There's a drum kit, a piano, and you bring a guitar or whatever, and you get a jam with some world class musicians. So that's always fun too. So just
Yeah,
got to move to Nashville.
that's the answer, right? Just move to
Move to
Nashville.
Nashville or Austin. I think Austin's like the live music capital of the world. So that's kind of a
So they
that's
say.
that's so they say. Yeah, it's probably actually like Muscle Shoals or something. I don't know. So. Cool. Awesome. Well, hey, this was a great one. Thank you guys so much. Last comment from the Orange Cowboy. He said, great tips of classical position strap solved a major issue. So that's awesome.
It's
That's
awesome.
literally why we do this, so we can solve some issues for you guys and help you become better musicians, better players, all that good stuff. So thank you so much. Hey, last time I'm going to say it, hit the like button, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we will see you next time. Any final words, Jonathan?
That's it. We'll see you next time.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Thanks, guys.